Electric cars. We all know about them, be it the IDR, stuff like the Porsche Taycan, and also the Rimac Concept 1 and 2. And this thing. Although don't click away because the Razor Tachyon Speed is not going to be staying around for very long. I just needed a car to film this intro bit with. Because today, on Forza Horizon 5, we are looking at a brand new electric supercar. But thankfully it's not this thing. But this. The NIO EP9 from 2016, starting out with 1,341 brake horsepower, 1,091 foot-pounds of torque, and weighing 3,800 pounds. This is China's first ever electric supercar. Ignore the fact that Forza team have decided to put it as hypercars, but yeah, oh well. But here it is. This is from China and, well, 2016. These are stuff you know already, I presume. But it has a wonderful engine note of nothing, because this actually has just electric motors. That's it. But yeah, we're going to go ahead, let you have a listen to this thing and or nothing of it. But it's tradition, so we shall continue. There, wasn't that a wonderful sound of what honestly sounds a bit like a kettle boiling? But then again, most electric cars sound like that anyway. However, as we can see from the customization here, there's not much we can do. We've got some, well, not even brakes. We can raise it and put it on drift springs. So if we want to take it off-road, we can. If you want to make it on drift springs and drift it, which we will be coming back to later this video, stay tuned to the end, then we can do that as well. And we can put a roll cage in it, which is a horrible idea because it goes straight up to X class immediately. Because this thing starts out, if you look at the top, sort of middle of your screen, at S2998 stock. Yep, you heard, stock. So we can go ahead and put a race diff in there, which we're going to do. And also we need to go and chuck on some tyres. So we'll go down to drag tyres, which takes it down to S2930. We'll make them wide at the front with 315s and 315s at the back. We can also put spacers on this thing, which we're going to come back and do in a bit. But yeah, rims, I'm going to just leave it with the stock ones. And aero and appearance. We can elongate the front. Why? Why though? What on earth? No. And then we'll go to the back with our wonderful spoiler. God, Forza Aero on cars just looks wrong. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and throw a quick tune of this thing together. In fact, I usually hide these, just tunes and secretive and all that. But this time I'm actually going to show you a little bit about it, because there is a pretty cool thing to this car. Now let's go ahead and bring the tyres down a bit, and if you go out to here, we can see gearing. We can mess about with the gearing of this thing. So let's go ahead and throw it all the way just to there, so it's like a perfect line going from the 0 at the bottom left to that little point at the top right. And alignment, we're going to go ahead and bring that in and do the whole rest of the usual things we do to this thing. But you can tune the gearing on this, which is actually pretty nice to do. Now, as we go through this video, I'm going to be pointing out a few fun facts I found on the internet about this thing, so keep a count and see how many you can find throughout this video. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and line this thing up with the drag strip, and we're going to go ahead and try and launch this thing and see what we get through the camera. Let's see, can we do any launch controlling this thing? Surprisingly, even though it's electric, we still can. Alright, away we go. Let's go and see what we can get through the camera. Now, this isn't anything that's going to win a drag race well, against anything really. But if we go ahead and just floor it here, we'll see we get 176 through the camera. So potentially our slowest vehicle through here yet, but then again, it's an electric car. It's not exactly made to do any of the drag racing stuff. Is that a Capri? No, wait, that is... Ooh, old Mitsubishi Starion. Hello. Okay, goodbye. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put some wheels back on this thing and some tyres and go and get it set up for the road. And we're going to go and take this thing racing. Also, I think it's worth mentioning I just tried to change up the gear. This thing doesn't have a second gear. Oops. So this is an interesting fact. It starts out on full slick tyres. Okay, so before we go out to do the races, here is actually how you get this car. You've got to do a lot of events, and once you get to 25 points in the summer of Series 4, that will get you the NIO EP9. And then something a little bit more interesting. In fact, speaking of electric cars, there was a remote concept on that next one. Right, let's go off racing. And that, of course, means going over to our wonderful usual testing ground, which is the Player Azul circuit. Now, as usual, these are all of the assists I'm running, highly skilled and all that. You can pause the video and read it if you wish to, but we're going to go racing. So we'll go to start race event and we'll go and see how well the EP9 stacks up against a whole host of other different cars. I guess that gives us our answer. Okay, bye. Right, let's go and put this thing through its paces. Well, after a bit of a kerfuffle in the corner, we've managed to get this thing up to second just in the first lap. How long it can keep it? Well, that's debatable. However, what isn't debatable is the fact that these things sold at £2.5 million each. That's roughly $3.8 million. Yeah, these things are pricey. And I believe there were 6 that were ever made and sold. Soon to be 5 if I keep doing that. Okay, and past first we go. That was sketchy, but this thing actually held it really well. What on earth? That is impressive. Wow, right. Gotta make sure we don't mess this one up. Thanks, Lamborghini. There we go. Through the bend, and onto the next bit of the lap. Hopefully you'll enjoy this little bit of racing that I add into these videos. If you do, let me know. There's a Lamborghini behind us, I'm sure it's trying to take this thing down. And just like that, with a very angry set of cars behind us, that is across the line in first. Well, looks like this thing really can hold its ground. Oh, would you look at that? In the time we've been racing, it's turned to night. Oh well, but this thing certainly held its ground going around the Player Azul circuit, much like it held its sort of ground going around the Nuremberg ring, with a shocking record time of 6 minutes and 45 seconds. Yep, you heard right. Just under 7 minutes lap time. Madness. Now, something that I didn't get a chance to mention before that race was the fact that it comes in 2 manufacturer colours. We've got this rather deep sort of navy, which essentially in some lights looks black, but it is actually a very, very dark navy, as you can see from the left-hand screen, and this beautiful light blue, which honestly, I was going to put this in a custom colour, but this colour is staying on this car. Well, here we are now at the edge of the motorway, well, edge of the motorway. And as we see, when this thing picks up speed, it actually has some active aero at the back, which does look pretty dang cool. Now let's see, what speed can we get this thing up to? We've got so far a very respectable, for this car, 100 and almost 90 miles an hour. However, that can change. Because remember that tunable gear ratio from earlier? Yeah, let's just go and there we go. Top speed simulating. We should see in any second. Oh, 199. Let's just go and bring that back a little more. We might be able to get 200 out of this thing. Yeah, so it says 199.3, which means it is going to hit 200 when we go down that little incline. You know the one we all mean. So I'm probably going to cut in the video to where we get to that little hill, and I'll meet you there. Okay, so we are not too far off of that hill now. We're struggling doing 197 just to the top of here, but hopefully now we've got that little decline going back down. That might get us to a magical 200. Now this thing is certainly a lot slower in terms of the electric cars in this game, of which this does make it 4th. But there is indeed 200. 201, 202, do we get 203? Yes we do. Any more? Any more? No, it's 203. That is the most speed we're going to get out of this thing. But the one point that I do want to point out is, look at how good this thing looks. I know it might be controversial to some people, but this thing looks really, really nice. God, I love it. You could say I loved it almost as much as some people who loved it enough to use it as a camera car during, I believe it was the Agera R versus something track race. In fact, let me check my notes. Give me a second. Found it on the notes. It says it was used as a camera car for the SVJ versus Agera R drag race. Now that is pretty cool. Now, we are back in the festival because, well, it is time for one thing and one thing only. We need to go ahead and grab our drift tyres. There they are. That brings us back down into S2 as well, thankfully. And then we're going to go and slide the NIO EP9. And just hope we don't set it on fire. And now for the last but kind of strange sort of fact of this video. Apparently Richard Hammond once said this thing drove like an octopus. I don't know how either. Anyway, let's go ahead and take this thing drifting. We all know this is a drift zone we use. Our cars get 2 attempts per run. This thing is just constant sideways. Oh my god. And it is 38,294 towards the end of that run. And now it is time for the second run. So we'll go ahead and chuck this thing in here and see what we can do. Now the thing I love about this is the throttle response. It is actually brilliant. Because that's just full pelt with a little bit of slight frameage for a minute. That was 37,700 and something coming back across there. But that is going to do it, sadly, for the video on the NIO EP9. I absolutely love this thing. It's not the fastest in the world, but it does look cool as anything. For example, let's go ahead and just have a look at it here in photo mode. And hey, the wheels stay turned during photo mode this time. Look at that. Absolutely love it. Now, the one thing that I find slightly interesting is if you go here, these look a little bit like the Mark V Supra's headlights if you squint a little. That's kind of cool. But yeah, this thing is, it's amazing. Actually amazing. I love it. If you get the chance to pick one of these up, please do go ahead and do that because it is so worth it. But yeah, that is going to be it from me and this fantastic little NIO EP9 for this video. So thank you very much for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed, because I know I sure enjoyed driving this thing. Honestly, we need more cars to look like this. Although, maybe a few with an engine in as well. Can you imagine how cool that would be? Anyway, I'm rambling. Subscribe if you're new. Leave a comment. I love to read them. I try to pledge as many as I possibly can. Leave a like if you enjoyed. I've said that already. Thank you for watching, and a goodbye. One other thing I forgot to mention. That is a G-force meter on the right there. That's cool.